Okay, folks, we are back with another episode of How Men Grieve. We took a little bit of time off to get through the holidays and take care of some personal things that we had to get done. I'm your host, Kay Rogers. I am joined today by my co-host, Andrew Rogers.
Hello.
Jesus. And our other host, Aaron Adams, was unable to attend. He had to do some daddy stuff with the kids today, so that's more important. So here we go. We decided in this episode we're actually going to read or review an article we both read, and it was talking about understanding the way men grieve. And we found this on the Social Work Today website, and it was an article that was posted by J. Scott Jansen, and I believe it was posted in, as I scroll down and try to find out when.
Oh, I never even checked when it was posted.
Yeah, I think it was posted sometime in 2019. But either way, we're just going to kind of talk about a couple different parts of it. We're not going to go word for word verbatim. There's just a few parts of this that I think kind of struck a chord with Andrew and myself, and we thought it was worth some discussion. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and start going through this article. And initially, Andrew, you read the same article I did. What was your thoughts?
Well, I kind of went through a few of them. The main thing that I noticed was that it was talking about how men are taught growing up that you're not supposed to really deal with your emotions or show that you're dealing with your emotions. Like the quote that I saw in probably all of the 5 articles that I read was, "Real men don't cry." I feel like that was kind of the main point to most of them anyways, is just kind of expanding on that.
And do you think that's something that, as you're growing up, that was kind of the expectation as well?
I think it is for most people. I mean, or most, boys or men, whether it's your parents saying it or your uncles or grandparents or, friends at school even. Like, it's kind of driven into you pretty early.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's one of them things. I know it was passed down to me, and I have no doubt I passed it down to, you and your brothers. Men are supposed to be tough. We don't, we don't show that emotion. And while we're not showing emotion, I think we're doing ourselves a lot of damage.
Oh, absolutely. Because instead of expressing it and dealing with it, you're trying to bottle it or ignore it or, suppress it in whatever way you can. And you're told that to talk about it or to express it is viewed as weak, or it'll make people uncomfortable, or,
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I read a section of that in the article. I'm trying to pull it up here so we can see it. But it actually talks about that a little bit. We'll see if I can find it. Well, I don't know. I can't. Well, maybe some of this cultural messages part, but there was a reference to that saying that if men, when they do try to talk about emotions or feelings or whatever that is, they're told to basically suck it up. Quit being a baby. You gotta suck it up, buttercup. Right? You've got to work through it and be hard. And there's times that I think, and I know when we went through the loss of your brother, that we needed to be able to talk about that and express that emotion. And I don't think any of us did a real good job. I know I didn't.
No, I didn't either. Well, I feel like it comes to a point where you do that for so long, or you ignore things for so long, you don't really know how to express what you're feeling or what you think you need, or I think it becomes more and more difficult the longer that you kind of suppress things or ignore them. It becomes more and more difficult to reach out for help or to express what kind of help that you need or even what you're feeling.
So here I found it. It was talking about a little bit about, that when they, when men have attempted to talk about their feelings, they have been kind of rejected, right? Or been told, be strong, don't cry, suck it up, don't make others feel uncomfortable. And those words, when you're trying to reach out and have that conversation with somebody, those words hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they hurt bad. and it's pretty brutal.
Well, it can make you feel lonely as well. So it's not only you're dealing with all this stuff, but you have to deal with it by yourself.
Here we go. Now we're recording.
Perfect.
Yeah, here it's a little better. I think that's not, I got to play it a little bit more and figure out how to be a sound artist, which is going to take a lot of college and skill that I don't have.
We'll get there one day.
We will. So anyway, we were talking about this article, and we were talking about when people, when men reach out
Right.
and express the need and they get rejected. Do you remember a time that you've done that?
Oh, absolutely.
Why don't you talk us through that?
It was the first relationship. I mean, I was still pretty young, so I'm not kind of a relationship. I had tried to talk about it to that person, and they said it was too hard for them to listen to, that I could not talk about it with them, that they didn't want to hear about it.
Wow. It wasn't even suck it up. It's just,
No.
it's too hard for me to hear your feelings, so I'm out.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm assuming that ended the relationship soon thereafter.
I mean, the whole thing was like a month or two. So
it wasn't a long relationship to begin with?
No, it wasn't a very serious relationship, but I still thought that was pretty shitty.
Oh, it's completely shitty. I don't even understand why somebody would think that would be okay. I mean, I think...
Well, it was just lack of caring.
Right. And that's exactly what it is.
But we were in high school, so it is what it is, but at the time it sucked. I was like, well, what the hell? Who am I supposed to talk to?
I don't think your cord's plugged in all the way. So anyway, well, we are experiencing all kinds of technical difficulties.
Well, it's been a little bit. We'll work through it.
And we guys do. They're going to hear a lot about that in our podcast. We're still getting hits. People are still listening. We took a month off. We got to get back at it. So what was your response? Do you remember what you told that person when they said that to you?
Honestly, I don't remember. I probably didn't react very well.
I would imagine that's to be expected.
But I didn't try to talk about it again.
So, I mean, at that point, you probably felt completely abandoned.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad feeling. I mean, because it was... I already didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't really try to talk to many people about it. So that was kind of discouraging. Trying to talk to somebody and then basically being like, nope, that's too hard. I don't want to deal with it. So you're on your own. Well,
and, with me and, Pam probably not being in the... I mean, I know we weren't in the best place emotionally or whatever, so you couldn't depend on us either. So that's a pretty lonely place to be.
Well, and I'm sure I don't feel like I really tried to talk to you guys about it, and part of it was I knew that you guys were struggling with it. I didn't want to put more on your plate expressing how I was feeling about it and giving you guys more to worry about. At least that's what I thought in my head.
Did we... So you've said this a couple times in some of the previous podcasts, like, well, you felt like you didn't want to put more on us.
Right.
Did we, at some point or another, give you the feeling that would be wrong to come to us? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, no, I get it. No. You guys never did anything that made me feel like that. I don't know. I didn't really know how to deal with it in the first place, or really how to process what I was feeling. And then I didn't... It was more of just a personal thing. It wasn't anything that you guys did or said or anything like that. You guys asked us how we were doing constantly and checked on us and made sure that we were doing good. It was just, I didn't want to give you guys more to worry about. I knew that you were already dealing with something huge. I didn't want to put more on your plate, I guess.
Did you have that same feeling when you went to your mom and Marty's?
Yeah.
And you didn't feel like you'd really kind of reach out to them either?
I mean, it's not that I necessarily felt like I couldn't. I just didn't really... I didn't want to, but not because I didn't feel like I could talk to you guys. Because I didn't want to worry you guys more than you were already worrying.
Right. Somebody's walking upstairs. If you can't tell, our Beats laboratory, as I call it, or where we do our podcast, is in the basement of my house. So anybody walks upstairs, we all get the pleasure of hearing their thumping feet. That's okay. Yeah, I know. I was thinking as I was reading this article, and not to get away from that, Andrew, because it's a valid point. When I know, and you made a good point earlier. What was it you said earlier about, it's 10 years later?
Oh, we were just talking about, you had said something about finally figuring out that it's really not healthy to suppress our emotions and not actually deal with things, and how we probably should have, expressed more and dealt with more whenever it first happened. And I was like, yeah, it's been almost 10 years. We're just now figuring this out. Like, it's not, I don't feel like it's that common to be discussing stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we talk more openly now since we're doing the podcast than we probably did before.
Oh, we've had so many conversations that, we've all learned new things, or, stuff we had no idea about. We've talked about it, sure, but not as in-depth as we have since we started the podcast.
It's almost like we took the locks off the door.
Absolutely.
And for Aaron, too. I think we've all had some pretty open and honest conversations about, what we've had to deal with. You were such a trendsetter. Thanks, babe. I appreciate you. Mm-hmm. She made me a big one. Anyway, so back to this article we read, and this isn't really a critique of the article. I want to make that clear. This is really relating some of the points of the article to it really fits. It fits, The first sentence in this article is, sometimes I wonder if you even care that our little boy is gone, right? And that is a conversation between, husband, wife, etc. I've been asked that question.
Yeah.
And because I tried so hard to be that protector, that guy that, I couldn't show the emotion. I had to be strong for everybody. And, here it talks about, the face flashes hurt before anger. And that's exactly what it feels like. Yeah. It's a very painful thing to hear. But in typical man fashion, we take hurt and we turn it into anger.
Right.
That's our process. And not all men do that, so I just want to make that clear. We're not stereotyping all men, but I would say there's a large majority of men that have been taught to try to do that feelings are bad.
Oh, absolutely.
And it talks in this article, it talks about, is there really a difference in the way men grieve? And that was kind of the whole purpose of us doing this podcast, was to kind of talk about that we do grieve differently. I mean, to your point, we're 10 years later.
Right.
In this article, it's, they go into a lot of this stuff that I don't understand. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever. But they make some points, I think, that we've already talked about, Andrew, that really kind of, in my mind, drove the point home. For example, it talks about men are more than likely than women to remain silent and grieve in isolation. We don't grieve in groups.
No.
We'd rather go close the door and be by ourselves, and just for however long that takes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't know if it was this specific article or if it was one that I read, but it was saying that, women are taught from a young age to build a support system and ask, be vocal about what they need and stuff like that. But men are taught the exact opposite, that you don't cry, you don't show anybody that you're feeling emotions, you figure it out. And I definitely agree that we've touched on that numerous times.
Is your phone ringing?
Oh. It
I thought I heard it.
It was coming from my headphones into the.
Oh, is that what it was? Anyway, not to take away from your point. So go ahead and restate that, Andrew.
I don't know exactly what I said.
Well, just go general. It doesn't have to be specific.
One of the, I don't know if it was a specific article or not, because I'm trying to remember, because even this one I think referenced a couple of the other ones that I read, but it was saying that, you know, women and girls are taught from a young age to kind of build a support system and to be able to express what they need and be vocal about that. And, you know, if they're crying, then they'll get a shoulder to cry on and stuff like that, which may not be true for every woman, but that's, and they were saying men from a young age are taught the exact opposite. You suck it up and you deal with it, and you don't, you know, show anybody that you're hurting or reach out for help. You just figure it out or suppress it.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that completely. I think that we spend too much time, I think, kind of, because I read some of those same points you were making, and it's like we're trying to be the support system.
Right.
Instead of, you know, like women build a support system generally that's several friends or a group of friends or their close, you know, their sisters or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
We try to be that individual support system for everybody.
Right. Well, if you even think about it, like on the playground at school, if a girl is crying, one of her friends or somebody's going to come up and give her a hug and ask her what's wrong and talk her through it. If there's a guy crying on the playground or a boy, he's going to get pointed at and laughed at.
Yeah, he's going to be circled by his friends and laughed at.
And people are probably going to call him names and make fun of him. It's not viewed the same as, you know, a woman being vulnerable and expressing her emotions and a man expressing his emotions. It's just not the same thing.
Although we do all feel those same emotions and probably need the similar or same type of support to work through those emotions.
Absolutely.
We're just taught to be afraid to ask for it.
Right. Or to not accept it, I'm sure, even. Like,
there's that too, and that's a good point.
I was offered support many times by you guys, by, you know, I can't think of everybody, but you know what I mean. There's family members that were, obviously they're trying to be supportive, but I didn't accept it. I didn't even know how to accept it.
Do you think it would have been better maybe if that support offer would have came from somebody that wasn't in the middle of the grieving process too?
I think it can be good at times because there's obviously that level of relatability, but at the same time, if, like, I didn't want to come to with you guys with how I was feeling because I knew that you were grieving as well. I didn't want to make things more difficult for you, so I do think that it's helpful for somebody outside of that process to, you know, be your support.
But at the same time, you don't want it to be a complete stranger. You want it to be somebody that you have at least a level of comfort with that's willing to listen and not have maybe a preformed judgment over, you know, what you're doing or how maybe you're reacting to the grieving. Right.
Well, I know, especially for me, like, it would take a pretty large amount of trust to be able to open up to somebody like that, especially when you're not, you know, quote unquote supposed to.
Yeah, it's almost like we're Shrek. We got to peel the layers of the onion back one at a time. Well, and trust is a huge thing, right? Yeah. I mean, if I don't trust you, or at least have a level of confidence that when I'm talking to you, you're not forming a judgment, you're actually giving me reasonable advice to try to help me, not, you know, form an opinion about who I am or whatever.
Right.
You know, that's not an easy, that takes time.
It does, absolutely.
And unfortunately, you're probably a lot like me, and I'm not an easy egg to crack. So, you know, and you tend to be, you even kind of internalize a little bit more than I do.
Maybe. I have been known to internalize a little bit here or there.
Well, I know I do. I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, and Pam will tell you that too. And anybody that knows me knows I internalize. I'm not like this expressive guy, right?
Right.
I mean, I've gotten better over the years. I'm 48 years old. I've realized that, you know, a lot of that is not okay. It's okay to talk about it.
Right.
And I really don't care if somebody forms an opinion while I am sharing an emotion. Maybe not, because a lot of times you're not sharing that emotion with them, but they're in a place where they overhear it or whatever, and then they want to pipe in with 2 cents worth, and you just say, shut up or I'll kill you.
Basically.
I've learned approval from other people isn't needed for me to find happiness and satisfaction in life, right?
No, absolutely not.
But it is good to find a group of people that are able to, or not even a group necessarily, maybe 1 or 2, group.
Right.
I keep my circle of friends pretty small.
Yeah, mine's even smaller.
Yeah, yours is even smaller. We got to work on that. But, that's what you need. You need that small group of friends, or even if it's a large group of friends, but you need them people that you've built those relationships with, I think.
Right. Well, you have that trust and you have that comfortability, and, you know that they're not going to, or at least you hope that they're not going to steer you wrong, or...
I've had some friends over the years. I got a couple that I've been friends with since I was very young. I'm not going to name them, but because I haven't asked them if I could on the podcast, so I'd rather talk to them first before I start dropping names. But anyway,
right.
I've been friends with both of them. One from the time I was 7 years old, and another one from the time that I was 10 years old, probably. And you probably can guess who they are. J and K.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, and this is not a judgment on the other or a measure of friendship, because there's many, many reasons why things happen. But this particular one felt driven that they got up out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and drove in from where they lived, which is about 45 minutes away, so they can come up and offer support. And that's a person you can talk to.
Yeah.
That's the kind of friend that it wants to be there, right?
Right.
For other people, and I had other friends that I've got a couple that are pretty close friends, and I don't blame them. They just couldn't do it when it's a child involved. They couldn't come up and see, him laying there dying. Well, dead, right? We're keeping him alive for organ donation. So
Did they express that to you, or are you just saying that because they didn't come up?
Oh no, they expressed that to me.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
So here's a quick story, and I know we're segueing away from kind of these articles and men's grief, and we do actually do this differently, because there's some really good points here I want to get back to and talk about.
Absolutely. We got time.
Oh, yeah. We got plenty of time. Our listeners are like, okay, dudes, are you ever going to release another one? Just for the record, too, I want to say that I did do a great recording with my brother who had recently lost his wife, and my other brother who has experienced grief in his life, too. And for whatever reason, again, another technical difficulty, clearly I need to get better at controlling a computer, but the podcast did not save, and it's completely gone. So I'm going to have to re-record with them. But we did have another one recorded, and it's gone. It was a great podcast, too. I wish I would have had that, because it was a good one.
Maybe we could set something up over Skype or something to redo that, and that way it won't take as long.
Yeah, I think we can do it through the phone. I just got to watch some YouTube videos and figure out how to hook a phone in there so we can record. But anyway, so there's this gal that I've been friends with. Well, I was very close friends with her in high school. Me and a couple other people, we all ran together. It was me, her, and another gal and somebody else, and we were just truly good friends. And as you get out of high school, you grow apart, go your own paths, do whatever. She was the nurse on duty that night when Nick died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I just recently, I'm friends with her on Facebook and stuff now, and I haven't had any conversations with her since, but it was just an interesting thing that I hadn't seen her in years, and we knew each other pretty well, going through high school. We ran around together and smoked cigarettes and drank beer and had fun and, shared stories about my girlfriends and her boyfriends and how and stuff like that, and then and hadn't seen each other, and that brings that full circle, right? So that small world thing.
Yeah.
So it is really kind of a neat story. But anyway, I was also kind of driven as I was reading, and I did read more than one article, but this one actually just kind of highlights the points I think that really kind of break it down and it makes sense.
Right.
For example, in this particular one, it talks about 4 fundamental messages about what it means to be a man and constitute, male behavior. And the first point is the stiff upper lip, and which means that we're taught that we have to be strong and stoic, right, in the face of difficulty, and we're discouraged from expressing vulnerability, and we're encouraged to accept pain without complaint. And I think that is absolutely spot on.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I know I was, and I know me being taught that, I thought that was the right thing to teach you and to teach Aaron and to teach Nick. And so I did. It's like, pain is pain. You can't complain about it. You got to take it and deal with it, and you got to be tougher than that pain.
Exactly.
Right? The second one I thought was another good point, that us men have to be in control at all times. We have to be self-reliant, and we have to be able to handle any situation and not ask for help to do it. And I thought, wow, I mean, that, again,
it's spot on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even argue that.
No.
The third one, and they call it the powerful loner stereotype. Or that's the second one, sorry. That's the powerful loner stereotype, where we have to, handle any situation without asking for help.
Yeah.
The third one is that a man must protect and keep safe everyone who's important to him, and never, ever trouble those people with his own struggles and concerns. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So we have to protect them. We have to be strong for them. We got to be there for them. We got to be that base.
Right.
But we can never, ever bother them with any issues or whatever struggles we may be having. And then the last one was that a man must be always ready and able to overcome any challenge without fear.
Yep.
So if you want to talk about 4 completely unrealistic expectations of being a man, there they are.
But I feel like, maybe not every man has dealt with that, but probably most, at least most of the ones that I know.
Well, and if you haven't, all the rest of the men that are beating you up for not.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not helping each other.
No, because even if you're not getting that from your parents or your family members, you go to school and it's exactly like that.
Right.
I mean,
when's the last time you went to? It's a perfect example. You just talked about school.
That's what I'm saying.
When I went to school, there was never a time I was going to walk into a gym class or into the men's locker room and say, "Hey guys, I'm upset. Can you help me?"
Hell no.
I would have had my butt cheeks duct taped together and them guys towel snapping me until I freaking, ran home red.
Yeah, you get called names, you get physically picked on, or whatever. You never live that down.
No.
You can't show weakness.
And it's not that it even ends at that moment.
No.
Because now, if you did that in front of any guys, right, you just opened the door that you are going to be tormented relentlessly.
Exactly.
You're going to be viewed as weak. You're going to be viewed as a pussy, quote unquote.
Yep.
You're going to be viewed as a target. Because now you showed emotion. Now it's okay for me to go over and try to beat you up. It's okay for me to go over and try to torment you, take things from you, call you names, and all those things.
Yep, pick on you. You're going to hear about it every day.
Yeah.
For, at least the rest of that year, if not going into the next one, or until you stop going to school with those people.
Right. And it's not even school. Let's say you get out of school. Your workplace.
Yep.
Same thing. Your life, your friends outside of work, and not all friends, but generally, right? And
the
so,
ones that you're not real close to.
right.
Because there's friends that you have that you can trust with anything. There's probably a couple people in your circle, if you're lucky. Or there's just the people that you go and you get a beer with, or, you know, whatever it is that you do. But you're not going to sit there and tell them about everything going on in your life or whatever, you know?
No.
There's different kinds of friends.
And it's funny because and tell me if you saw this in these articles, that we talked this through a little bit more. But in every article I read, they talked about these things, right? Like these 4 points, for example, what we're taught and how we're supposed to be. None of them really touched on the consequences of not doing those things.
No. No, I didn't see anything about that.
I didn't either, but that's just what we talked about.
Right.
It's not only that you're taught those things, right? But
It's kind of forced.
Yeah, it doesn't really highlight the reason why we still do those things, which is the consequence of it. Because if you don't do those things, there's
a lot of consequences.
The torment, I mean, the aftermath is as devastating.
Exactly. And if you're already dealing with something, you're not going to want to bring that onto yourself or even take the chance of dealing with that. I guess you're not really bringing it on yourself, but you know what I mean? You're not going to want to give anybody the opportunity or to do that, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're viewed as weak.
Right.
And I don't even know it's that. It's like, if you've already expressed it, right? You've shown that emotion. You've taken that risk. It's the fact that you don't want to deal with the aftermath if it isn't received.
Yeah.
Because to your point you just talked about, I'm already going through something. And now, because I asked for help, or I told somebody I'm not feeling well about this, or I'm emotional.
Yeah, or you couldn't hold it back anymore. You let yourself cry, and you weren't at home in your bedroom or in your car by yourself.
Right.
You know, you cried in public or something like that. Even something little like that can set it off if you're at school or work, like you said, or, you know, wherever.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And then now, not only did you have a weak moment, which happens, because it happens all the time. I still have moments where I'm a freaking blubbering baby. Ooh, crap, sorry about that. Hit the table. I still have moments where I'm kind of a blubbering idiot, but now, not only do I have to still deal with those, because those don't go away.
Right.
We just learn to live as we go forward. Now I got to deal with all this other stuff.
Yeah, it just adds to it.
And then while we're dealing with the other stuff, people are tormenting us and all that kind of stuff. So what do we do then? Well, we react in a less than favorable way, right?
Absolutely.
We either react violently, we completely shut down and isolate ourselves from everybody and push everybody away.
Yeah, I mean, there's really only a couple things that you can do in that situation.
Right.
None of them are good.
No. It's really, being a man is not easy. And I'm not saying that in terms of, women have no idea what it's like to be a man. They don't. No more than we have any idea what it's like to be a woman.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt in my mind that it is not easy to be a woman.
No, I don't imagine that it is.
No, the sexism and everything else that they got to deal with, and the expectations, and being a woman is not easy, and everything that they go through, having children, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, we don't even know. But being alone, quote unquote, per se, as you walk through these things, is not easy either.
No, absolutely not. And they can both be difficult, as I think that's what some people fail to realize. It can be difficult for men just as well as it can be difficult for women. There's no reason to compare them.
There's this quote, and it says the masculine side of healing is not as accepted a mode of healing as the more traditional verbal and emotional expressions. It tends to be quieter and less visible, less connected with the past and more with the future, and less connected with passivity and more aligned with action. As a consequence, I've noticed repeatedly that people who use a predominance of this masculine side of healing are suspected even by mental health professions of not really healing. What do you think about that?
I'm not really sure.
To
I
me,
think it's saying that men try to maybe keep themselves more busy or try to do something about how they're feeling rather than discuss it, do something to change it. Or do you think I'm perceiving that completely wrong?
No. I'm not going to say that because I don't think that statement is meant for everybody to perceive it the same way.
Maybe not. I'm not really sure how to take that, to be honest with you.
To me, what that tells me is as men, we accept that we're going to spend the rest of our lives being broken instead of actually trying to go through the healing process.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean through healing you're not changed, right? You're going to be changed. But that says it's not even healing. Now we're just broken and we're going to stay broken. Oh my God, what was that? That's kind of what that said to me.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it does talk in most of the articles that I read. They all talked about men have a tendency to have the inward experience of grief, right? And we just had a really good conversation about that.
Yeah.
Because if we try to be outward about it, the consequences of that are devastating.
Right.
And we don't, and I think also we're taught that we don't, to show emotion is weakness, and men can't be weak. And if we're weak, we're sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to be a sheep. We want to be a wolf. I know I was a wolf, or tried to be anyway, the best that I could.
Yeah, I think we all try to be, for the most part.
Until Nick died, and then, man, that tore me up. Still does, to this day. I mean, I'd never cried in front of any of you kids until that happened.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
I
think even after, it probably took a little bit. I mean, maybe not the times that have stood out to me were a little ways after. So I don't know, maybe directly after or not.
It just became overwhelming.
Right.
No matter how I try to...
And that's not... I mean, of course you're going to cry. Of course you're going to be emotional. That you can't really help that at that point. It's an unrealistic expectation to not be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the other thing that I thought was interesting to me, that men typically, because of who we are, well, I guess here it kind of talks a little bit about the serious complications, and it's really the what happens afterwards is causing men to suppress or feel shame about normal thoughts and feelings and difficulties, which often attend grief. And then it potentially creates distrust when it comes to asking for accepting support. All right, we talked about that. If we ask her, for support, the consequences of asking for that can be devastating.
Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you this much. Most men don't ask for support from other men.
No.
Most men will ask for support in this kind of stuff from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not judged.
Right.
Because it doesn't challenge our masculinity.
Well, it feels less risky.
Yeah. Yeah, we still feel like a man. We can talk to somebody that understands our emotion, and we don't feel don't know, we just don't feel less of a man by sharing it with a woman as we do with another dude.
Right.
That's crazy.
I would agree with that for sure.
And I thought it was another interesting point that because of that, it can lead to isolation, relational conflict. Well, Pam and I have clearly demonstrated that well. Undisclosed anxiety, depression, or we start doing dangerous or stupid things like drinking or risk taking, and as it says here, those things can lead to premature death.
I mean, almost every episode that we've had so far, we've touched on one or all of those things at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I will not lie. I drink more now than I did before.
Right.
You know, you had your struggles with addiction, you know, and I think a lot of that wasn't not only just related to the injury you had at the time, but also your depression.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a way to cope, right?
Yep.
It took some of that off and made us feel good for the moment.
Yeah, like it says, we're trying to escape it, whatever means necessary.
Yeah.
Whatever is going to make that, go to the back of your head instead of at the front of your mind constantly, or easier to ignore for a little while.
It's almost like a dodgeball death match. I mean, if you really think about it, you're trying to avoid those emotions at all costs, and if you have to deal with them, it is life-altering.
Yeah.
I'm going to patent that. Dodgeball death match. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not going to...
I mean, that could be our slogan.
No, that's a terrible idea. Dodgeball death match is our slogan, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you said it?
Well, it's pretty cool that I said it. So reading through these articles, it sounds like we all recognize that, we're jacked up. And our feelings and how we've been dealing with the grief really isn't all that unique.
No.
We've been the classic textbook men grieving, not dealing with it and hiding and all that kind of stuff.
It sounds like it, which I didn't realize until I started reading these articles, but it's pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
Most of the articles I read they were pretty much spot on. They all kind of said the similar kind of stuff, though. So
it's kind of funny because and I noticed because I read several, and they all said the same thing.
Yeah.
Just different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much men are not that difficult to understand why they don't grieve the way they do, or why they do grieve the way they do is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And why they don't process the way they should.
Yeah. I'd agree.
Did you see any that talked about things men should do different?
I don't think I did.
Or is the assumption that we should already know what that is?
Well, I think, I don't know, at the end of that article that we were going over, the social workers wanted, I think this is for people like counselors and stuff to know how to take men's grief a little bit easier.
Oops.
It commented on that at the very end of it. So I don't really know. I didn't see any that had any good advice. Just, this is what men do.
Yeah, because I think when I originally intended to research an article, I was actually looking for something, not necessarily telling me how men do it wrong. 'Cause, I mean, obviously we do.
Right.
I was looking for an article that kind of talked through different activities that men should, or different, not activities, but maybe just different ways men should handle that grief, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't find anything.
Yeah, I kind of, I wasn't really looking for anything specific. I was just kind of seeing what was out there because I haven't really read up on it before, and I definitely didn't see anything like that, even close.
So listen, you really smart people out there, and if you're psychologists or in the mental health field, write an article on the steps you think a man should take to break down the boundaries, even if it's a little bit of a self-help before he's ready to go out and ask for help. What are some activities and things that he can do? How can he maybe, and I know he's self-helping, right? But maybe the point is what things can he do to start bringing himself to the point where he kind of gets away from the self-helping and he's asking for help in the appropriate way, going to the right people, getting the help that they need. I did read something in this article where it talked about the rate of suicide was higher for men, especially from the loss of a spouse.
Yeah, I think I saw that in this one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a little disturbing, and suicide is never the right answer, right?
No.
And so, guys, if you are experiencing those feelings and you're having those thoughts, man, get out there and ask for some help. Don't care about the stereotypes. There's all kinds of people out there that can talk to you, and they don't care about the stereotypes. But don't take that step.
Right, and if you don't have friends or family that you want to reach out to, there's counselors and groups, and there's all sorts of stuff out there that you can do.
Yeah, because we don't want that. That's not the right answer. It may seem like it, may feel like it, may, whatever. But don't do that.
No, that's not the solution.
We don't want to hurt each other. Don't do that stuff. And if things, are rough, get out there. You can always call the suicide prevention hotline, right, at 1-800-273-8255. There's people there 24/7. They're definitely going to answer the phone. They're definitely going to offer you some help.
I think there's a text line now, too, if you don't want to call about it and actually speak.
Well, and then
I'm not sure what the phone number for that is. You'd have to Google that.
There's also now going to be coming out here pretty soon. There's going to be a new 3-digit number that's going to be that's coming out. That's been approved for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline as well, and that is going to be that is 988.
Oh, cool.
So if you're having those feelings and you're just feeling consumed, it's like 911 when you need help from police or EMS or fire and rescue, man, call that 988 number. Get somebody on the phone that can help you, talk you through that tough time. We don't want to see those things happening. Life is still worth living. It is still valuable. And whether at times, and it's been hard to believe, I know for myself at one time or another, and Andrew, probably for you too, but there are still good memories to make.
Absolutely.
Life is still worth living, and it's still okay to smile. So reach out, ask for help. Let's not be a statistic. There's a lot of people out there that still love you. And, give somebody the opportunity to help you. So, Andrew, I think we had a pretty good talk. What do you think?
I think I'd have to agree with you.
Do you got any closing remarks you want to send out to our listeners?
I don't really think so.
I didn't think you would. You're not one that talks. I'm a talker more than you are. As always, everybody, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to our podcast. We are always working hard to improve, even though sometimes it's been a little slow, but we're going to continue to do that. We're upgrading equipment. We're getting better at learning our soundboard and our computer and all that kind of stuff. So, but the point of this whole podcast, as the name says, is How Men Grieve. And, we just want everybody to know out there that, we do have emotions. It's okay to show them. And, pain is pain. So let's talk about it. So until we release again, tell your family and friends, share it. We appreciate it. Peace.